Hey everyone, I need to make a quick postscript correction. In my previous video, explaining debuffs and status effects, I listed Poison Cloud as a spell that can be used by Terror Knights. This was an error. Poison Cloud is a spell that is not usable by Terror Knights. My apologies. Class builds. Among the topics that have been requested that I cover, few have been mentioned as often as a guide or guides for how to build characters and classes. And in a game as big as Tactics Ogre Reborn, with as many choices as it offers you, it's easy to see why. While I'm working on setting up a series of guides for each class, I wanted to offer something up now. So let's talk about Denam, and the build I used to clear Chapter 2. Hello everyone, my name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. If you find my videos fun, entertaining, or educational, please subscribe. The new channel goal for the year is 5,000 subs, and I've promised my first ever 24-hour live stream if we hit it before New Year's. With all the support I've been seeing, we just might get there. Thank you. So Denam. As the hero of our tale, he has a wide variety of potential builds. From warrior to knight, rune fencer or wizard or berserker, it's hard to go wrong, especially in the early game. But today, I wanted to advocate for Terror Knight. As one of my two favorite classes in the game, and one of the classes that has received a healthy buff in the transition to Reborn, I needed to know how Terror Knight would perform. And I'm happy to report that it is stellar. We'll start by quickly outlining what Terror Knights are, what they do, and their pros and cons, then we'll get into my build for Chapter 2. This guide will be spoiler-free, and note it is a build guide based in Chapter 2 Chaos. So keep that in mind if you're worried about spoilers, specifically for the end of the video, where I'll be discussing one roadblock I ran into using this build at the end of Chapter 2. If you don't want to be spoiled for the finale of Chapter 2 Chaos, stop watching at the timestamp that is on the screen now. Terror Knights are a class that you will unlock in Chapter 2 after the battle at Ziad Mor. The dark variant to normal knights, Terror Knights nonetheless share many traits with them. They are heavily armored warriors with high HP and physical defense, as well as solid physical and magical attack. Like knights, they specialize in battlefield control, but unlike knights, who focus on maximizing defense while utilizing healing magic, Terror Knights take more of a the best defense is a good offense stance. They use dark magic to inflict status effects like paralysis and sleep, as well as to drain the life and mana of opponents. They prefer two-handed weapons like greatswords and hammers, and their abilities focus on inflicting fear on the enemy to severely reduce their attack and defense. Note that they do also get Rampart Aura as well to further lock down surrounding units. Here's the pros and cons. For pros, we have high armor and HP, which make for tough frontliners. They have better physical and magical damage than knights, the ability to cast status magic. They can drain HP to sustain themselves, and they have single target and AoE fear abilities to ensure all nearby enemies will be disadvantaged. However, of course, like any well-balanced class, there are cons. The first of which is that Terror Knights are slow. They have heavy armor and big weapons, and not really great natural RT in the first place, so with all of that combined, they're going to have fewer turns. They're also not quite as tough as knights, both statistically and in terms of what abilities they have. There's no phalanx, their defense is lower, etc., and so can fall to a more concentrated assault without support. Finally, until you can start really building into their mind stat, a Terror Knight's accuracy with status magic isn't the best compared to something like a wizard, especially in that early game. So it is something to consider when trying to build them for that. Now, with the foundation laid, let's talk about Denam. To make this build work, I kept Denam as a warrior all through Chapter 1, utilizing two-handed swords to make sure his weapon skill would be up to snuff. This had the added benefit of increasing his physical attack and HP, both stats being very important for Terror Knights. Once I switched him, I chose to focus more on offense than defense, picking gear that boosted Denam's attack more than his defense. By the end of the chapter, he was equipped with the gear that you see here. A +1 Balder Blade, Balder Helm, Armor, and Gauntlets, and a +1 Chainmail Leggings, as well as his standard Azure Necklace. The Balder gear gives bonuses to Intellect, increasing the damage and healing of Denam's Drain Heart spell, and the Forged Balder Blade has both the best physical attack for two-handed swords at the time, and the aforementioned magic boost. It also deals bonus damage to Umbra, which is a nice addition. The Azure Necklace is just an all-around good accessory for Denam, and while there's probably a more min-maxed choice for him, I do like the balance of stats, as Terra Knight really does kind of want a little bit of everything. Ideally, as I mentioned before, you want some gear that will increase Mind as well, as it will increase the likelihood of applying status effects and debuffs, but there's little available at this point in the game. As far as items, I again chose to strike a balance. A Mendleaf +2 for emergency healing makes it less likely for Denam to die under concentrated assault, and an early Magic Leaf +1 ensures that you will have mana for spellcasting or Fearful Impact once you enter the fray. A Rayan Plume is a good self-buff for early damage, and a Blessing Stone ensures that Denam can help to res any fellow frontliners who may fall. As far as spells, I chose the following. Paralytic Wave can potentially lead to big returns, as the area of effect targeting balances out your relatively low chance to hit. Also, a stunned unit who also becomes frightened is in a very sad state of affairs, losing turns and dealing low damage even when they do get to act, as well as taking increased damage from anyone and anything that decides to look at them. Sleep allows you to knock out a big target like a beast or dragon until you have the chance to deal with it, while Drain Heart can help keep Denam in the fight for longer while also dealing good damage. Finally, Instill Shadow is a must, as a free 20% damage buff that will also occasionally reduce the damage you take due to the shadow resistance it grants you. Finally, here are the skills I chose. Two-handed swords are a must, of course, for both the damage and the finishing moves. Then, Fearful Impact gives you the ability to ensure any target will be feared on command for a relatively affordable MP cost. Constitution 2 is important to make sure Denam can take enough punishment to stay up, and Lament of the Dead can be devastating as a large area of effect debuff. Once Lament triggers on the front line, Denam's damage and survivability will skyrocket, allowing you to turn the tables in almost any scenario. Note that I choose not to run Rampart Aura in this build due to the lower defense of Terror Knights compared to Knights. I prefer to have Denam hold in locations where he can't be hit from many angles, either narrow choke points like alleys or cliffs, or with an ally alongside him to cover his flanks. Due to this, Rampart Aura quickly becomes rather redundant. Speaking of other units, there are a few recommendations I'd make here as well. A Cleric for dedicated heals is a must, as it allows you to spend more time casting status-inflicting spells and attacking with Fearful Blow, and less time casting Drain Heart or using healing items. Archers, rock-throwing beasts, and other powerful ranged units are also valuable here, as enemy spellcasters are the #1 threat to any Terror Knight. So, having units who can target them from behind your lines is more than just important, I would say it is vital. In the lead up to the conflict, take the chance to buff up with items or gain some extra MP. Also, keep an eye out for any buff cards, especially auto skill up cards, as you want Instill Shadow to trigger before you hit the front, and you want Lament of the Dead to trigger as many turns in a row as possible to lock down the enemy. Doing all of this will turn Denam into an absolute force of nature who can single-handedly weaken at least half of the enemy force, and enable the rest of your party to start picking them apart. This build has been a ton of fun to use, and has really suited my preference for a more aggressive style of play. Now, I did want to talk about one pitfall I ran into at the very end of Chapter 2 Chaos. If you haven't reached this point of the route yet and don't want to be spoiled, click away now. You have 5 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You gone? Good. So, at the end of Chapter 2 Chaos, you're forced into a duel with Vice, going mano-a-mano with Denam. As a Terror Knight, I found this to be incredibly difficult. Vice, as far as I can tell, cannot be feared, neutralizing half of the point of Terror Knights. And due to my low speed and lower defenses without fear, Vice was hitting for upwards of 500 damage with his finishers and frequently got 2 turns to my 1. Even knowing you don't actually need to kill Vice, simply weaken him, this still seemed insurmountable. Rather than beating my head against the wall, I changed back to Warrior to get better RT, switched to some lighter gear to again increase my speed, and with the increased damage that Warrior is able to deal with its abilities, I was able to eke out a victory. Take this as a cautionary tale. Terror Knight Denam is great at crowd control, but may not be the best choice for single target damage or duels when he can't inflict fear. And that's my first build guide for Tactics Ogre Reborn. I hope you found it educational, or at the very least fun. I'm looking forward to doing many other such builds in the future, both for characters and just classes in general. If there are any suggestions or changes you feel I should make, please let me know. This isn't the kind of video I'm used to making, and I'm open to specifically constructive criticism. With that said, thank you for watching. If you want to get early access to these guides, consider joining my Patreon. I have a few tiers with some nice benefits, including 1-day early video guide access and access to all of my scripts. And you'd be supporting me as I continue to grow, which, is nice. For now, though, my name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. Have a good night, stay safe and healthy out there, and remember, be good to each other. Bye now.